This is Leaf by Niggle by J.R.R. Tolkien, adapted by Elena Sorensen. You're very busy, I'm sure, but I have no one else to turn to. Niggle sighed and put down his brush. Parrish, his neighbor, stood at the open door, rubbing his lame leg. Niggle's half-painted canvas and a few sketch papers billowed in the breeze. Parrish would come to visit many times, and just when Niggle was rolling up his sleeves to work, Niggle was painting a tree. It was a sort of tree not seen in his part of the country. In fact, it was a tree from his own mind, from his imagination. It was beginning to be much bigger than the canvas he had started it on, and so he tacked several canvases together. The tree was sprawling and magnificent and had many different kinds of flowers growing from it. When Niggle's neighbors stopped by, they'd remark, "That's quite a tree, but did you know your garden needs weeding and your house needs painting?" Which is to say, they thought Niggle's painting was a bit of luxury he could hardly afford. Parrish never even bothered to look at the painting, but he did come quite regularly to say, "Please help me fix my roof," or, "My wife is ill, will you go for the doctor?" And Niggle went, though he would much rather not. "What do you need now, Parrish?" he asked. Inwardly, he thought, "To leave now, just when I was starting on that blossom on the high branch. I'll finish it when I return." Niggle never finished his painting. Quite abruptly, though not totally unexpectedly, a man came for him and took him to a dark hospital of sorts. Niggle was made to work very hard, alone, for a long, long while. He had a lot of time to think about his tree and Parrish, and remorse rose in him. If only I'd called on Parrish and his wife more, I could have gone to help them and not spent all that time dreading Parrish's visits. But after a while, he forgot all about Parrish and even his tree painting. He became a good worker, and if he was not very happy, he was no longer miserable. One night, in his bed, he overheard his name and case being discussed by two people in the next room. "He was not a very good neighbor to Parrish," said one voice. A second voice replied, "Perhaps not, but Niggle never expected anything in return from Parrish, and he did leave his painting many times to help him." The first voice was silent, but the second voice spoke again. "It's a case for a little gentle treatment now." Niggle felt the weight of goodness in that voice. He felt that the two were in the room with him now. Niggle asked them to cure Parrish's lame leg. "And please, I would like to see Parrish again if it's possible. He really was a good neighbor to me." The next morning, Niggle boarded a train that took him to a sunny, grassy place with a forest, rolling hills, and mountain peaks beyond the hills. It was somehow very familiar to him. He strolled about, enjoying himself, until he ran slap up against a tree. His tree, finished. The tree was enormous. Each leaf was distinct, each flower budding and each branch growing and bending in the wind, and birds were singing in it. "It's a gift," Niggle said. "How I wish Parrish were here to see it. Some of these other trees aren't quite done, and they're longing to be finished. Or perhaps I'm longing to finish them myself. But I must have Parrish. He knows so much about planting and growing." Parrish appeared suddenly, and as they greeted each other, Parrish said, "Thank you for putting in a good word for me." "It wasn't really me," said Niggle. "It was that second voice we should both be thinking." "Yes," said Parrish. "That second voice made all the difference." Niggle and Parrish set to work. First they built a house and a garden. Then Niggle would think of beautiful new flowers and plants, and Parrish would say, "Leave it to me." And over time, blossoms and vines and saplings grew rampant. Niggle saw his job was nearly done. The closer they came to finishing, the more Niggle's eyes went to the mountains beyond the green hills. One evening, they were walking among the hills and met a shepherd. He asked them, "Would you like a guide to the mountains?" Parrish said he'd wait for his wife to join him so she could add her own gifts to the garden. But Niggle said he would go with the shepherd that very evening. Before they went, Parrish asked, "What's the name of this country?" "It's Niggle's country," the shepherd replied. Niggle's picture, to be exact. Of course, a little bit of it is known as Parrish's garden. Parrish was astonished. "Your picture? I had no idea we were living in your picture." The shepherd said, "Niggle tried to show it to you, but you hadn't eyes for it. You only wanted your roof mended." Niggle shook Parrish's hand. "It doesn't matter. We've worked well together here. I hope we'll have a chance to work together again. Goodbye, Parrish." Niggle turned and looked at his tree for the last time. The blossoms shone like flames, and the birds sang all around it. Then he went on with the shepherd. Meanwhile, Counselor Tompkins and Schoolmaster Adkins were talking about Niggle. They were in his old house in the country, in a little room next to the kitchen, eating supper. "What a useless fellow," remarked Tompkins. "It depends on what you mean by use," said Adkins. "Practical or economic use," said Tompkins. "His kind take up a lot of space, wasting time better spent by contributing to society. I haven't gotten rid of him. I'd have gotten rid of him a long time ago. No damned use at all." Adkins considered this. He said, "I have a small bit of painting he'd done on a shred of canvas I found in the field. It was of a mountain peak and some leaves. I can't get it out of my head." Tompkins sneered and said neither Niggle's canvas nor his name was worth mentioning at all. Adkins reminded him sharply that Niggle's old home was now Tompkins, that no matter how little he thought of Niggle in life, his name couldn't be forgotten on that account. Adkins hung the painting in the county museum. It was titled "Leaf by Niggle." When the museum burned down, the painting did too, and Niggle's name was well and truly forgotten. In the dark hospital, the two voices were reviewing cases and deciding which to bring to the sunny country of Niggle's tree. "Many people convalesce so well there. It's wonderful to introduce them to the mountains," said the first voice. "But does the country have a name yet?" The second voice replied, "We call it Niggle's Parish. We have for some time. When we told them the name, they both laughed with joy. In fact, the mountains rang with it."